Good morning, students. Our today's topic is foreign exchange rate. As we know that it is the last unit of our macro economics, and the name of this unit is balance of payment. In the balance of payment, students, there are two topics. The one is balance of payment and the second one is exchange rate. So today we learn how this exchange rate is determined and why the prices of the currencies of the different countries changes on which reasons. Secondly, we also learn that what are the sources of the demand for foreign exchange, why do we need foreign exchange, and what are the sources of the supply of foreign exchange. So first we learn, students, in this topic what we study, one is foreign exchange and foreign exchange rate. The difference is there. Foreign exchange means what? Foreign exchange means, student, refers to the foreign currency. Foreign currency, as we know that the different countries have the different currencies there. In India, the name of our currency is rupee. In Russia, the name of their currency is ruble. In America, the name of their currency is dollar. In Japan, the name of their currency is yen. And in Bangladesh, the name of their currency is taka. So you can learn the various name of the currencies of the different countries and their symbols as well. Okay, students, आपने क्या करना है कि किन्हीं मेजर जो करेंसीज हैं विभिन्न देशों की, उनके नाम और उनके सिंबल्स को आपको बनाना है, पहचान करनी है, ताकि आपको ये पता चल सके कि डिफरेंट कंट्रीज में कौन सी करेंसीज का यूज किया जाता है. Secondly, we see here what is foreign exchange rate. Foreign exchange rate, as we know, the rate at which domestic currency can be exchanged for a foreign currency, जिसमें देश की घरेलू मुद्रा का विदेशी मुद्रा के साथ मूल्य का निर्धारण किया जाता है जिस दर के ऊपर, उसे हम क्या कहते हैं? फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रेट कहते हैं. इट इज सेड टू बी द फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रेट. Next we learn here flexible and fixed exchange rate, means that how they are determined. Managed floating, the meaning of this managed floating. Components of demand for foreign exchange, components of the supply of foreign exchange, etc. So see the next, foreign exchange and foreign exchange rate. As I have told you, the meaning of foreign exchange, the refers to the foreign currencies. Different countries have the different currencies, and foreign exchange rate, the rate at which domestic currency can be exchanged for a foreign currency. For example, $1 is equal to rupees 50. It means rupees 50 is equal to 1 upon $50. Both have the same purchasing power, dollar and rupees. What dollar is more stronger than rupees? Because the commodities which we can purchase with rupees 50 can be purchased with rupees $1. It means that dollar is more stronger. The purchasing power is of dollar is more than the Indian currency, that is rupee. Regarding this we learn in the next slides. Then next is the flexible and fixed exchange rate. What is flexible exchange rate, students? Flexible exchange rate is also called the floating rate of exchange. The another name of flexible exchange rate is the floating exchange rate. It is determined by the supply demand forces of a foreign exchange market. Supply demand forces. Students, we have learned in the microeconomics also, in the theory of price determination, that how the prices of the different commodities are determined, where the demand and supply of commodities intersecting, जहां पर मांग और पूर्ति आपस में संतुलन में होते हैं, that is called what the equilibrium price. Like that way, flexible exchange rate, demand for and supply of foreign exchange are the two basic determinants of the flexible exchange rate. Demand for foreign exchange. What is demand for foreign exchange? Students, in the microeconomics, we have learned higher the price, lower the demand. Lower the price, higher the demand. Means there is the negative relationship or the inverse relationship between demand for foreign exchange curve. It is inversely related. Why? As we know, the more is the price of dollar, the Indians will demand less dollars because we have to pay more. And if the exchange rate of dollar is less, we demand more dollars there. Why? Because we can purchase lot of things with that dollar. So, thus higher the rate of foreign exchange, lower the demand for foreign exchange, and vice versa. Let's see now in the diagram also. Students, here we are seeing when the $1 is rupees 50, we are demanding here how much? The demand is $200. But as when the price goes up from 50 to rupees 70 per dollar, demand falls from 200 to 100. That's why this curve takes negative slopes downwards. While you are drawing this curve, be careful on O-axis. We have taken here the demand for foreign exchange, means US dollars, and on O-y-axis, exchange rate. Okay. So today, now we have learned that there is a negative relationship between the exchange rate and demand for foreign exchange. Now next is the supply of foreign exchange. As in the microeconomics, we have studied that there is the positive relationship between price and supply of the quantity demanded. Why? Because more the price, the seller will wants to supply more commodity. Producer will wants to produce more commodity. Why? Because in this case, the producer or the seller will get the profit. We have learned in the supply of the commodities, profit motive. When the more profit is there, more supply will be there. Like that way, the supply of foreign exchange, we see here, the higher the rate of foreign exchange, higher the supply of foreign exchange. See in the diagram, on O-axis, students, we have taken the supply of the foreign exchange, and on O-y-axis, we have taken the rate of foreign exchange. This supply curve takes here positive slopes upwards. When $1 US is equal to rupees 50, we had the US is selling $100 there, but when the price goes up from rupees 50 to 70, the supply of the dollar will increase here from $100 to 200. So it shows here the positive relationship between rate of foreign exchange and supply of foreign exchange. So this is the demand and supply. Now next we see the equilibrium rate of exchange. Equilibrium rate means when the supply of foreign exchange is equal to the supply of demand for foreign exchange. Supply of foreign exchange is equal to demand for foreign exchange. See in the diagram, students, here on this DF, this is the demand for foreign exchange, and SF shows here the supply of foreign exchange. On axis, supply demand have been taken, and on OY axis, exchange rate is there. Both are intersecting on this point E. This is called the point of equilibrium, and R is the equilibrium rate of exchange. But we see here what happens when the rate of exchange increases. When it increases from R to R1, what happens? Demand falls. Because we have learned with the increase in exchange rate, demand falls. But on the other hand, supply increases. Why? Because seller or the producer or the supplier has the benefit to supply the foreign exchange on the higher rate of the foreign exchange. And if the exchange rate falls from R to R2, with the fall in exchange rate, supply will fall and demand will increase. Here it depicts in this diagram also. So this is the determination of the equilibrium exchange rate. In the next, students, we see here the impact of change in demand and supply on the exchange rate. This is the like that way only which we have studied in the microeconomics, the determination of the price determination theory. Here we see the impact of increase in demand. You see here in this diagram, students, when the demand increases from D to D1, what happens here? You see here, when $1 US is equal to ₹60, when demand increases, the US dollar becomes $1 becomes ₹70. It means that what the value of Indian currency is not raised. You keep this point in your mind. You underline this point, students. When the value of the Indian currency falls in relation to the US dollar, it means it is called what? Depreciation of the domestic currency. Here we have to pay more now to purchase $1. Earlier we were purchasing $1 at ₹60. Now but we are supposed to pay more for purchasing that dollar. It means the purchasing power of Indian currency has been fallen. So this is known as what? Depreciation of a domestic currency. Now the next is currency depreciation. The meaning I have told you, students, because question come in the exam, the meaning of depreciation, devaluation, appreciation. So depreciation means what? Depreciation means, you can write down this definition here, refers to the situation when domestic currency, your rupee, depreciate or lose its value in relation to the foreign currency, say US dollar, so that you need more rupees to buy a dollar. Example, if US dollar exchange for ₹70 instead of ₹60 earlier, the domestic currency Indian rupee shows a depreciation. It means that the value of Indian currency has been fallen in comparison to the US dollar. Now the next is, what happens when there is the decrease in demand? You can see, students, on this diagram, the demand falls from D to D1 and exchange rate falls from R to R1. What happens here? Assume the exchange rate when the demand was D, the $1 US was equal to ₹60. But when the demand falls from D to D1, US dollar, the value of US dollar 1 is equal to 50 rupees. What does it mean? It means that the value of the Indian currency now has been increased in comparison to the US dollar. And this is called what? Appreciation of domestic currency. Now we need less money to purchase US dollar, or the commodities from US become cheaper to India. So this is called what? Appreciation of currency. Now students, we see the currency appreciation definition. What is the definition of appreciation? It refers to the situation when domestic currency appreciate or gain its value in relation to the foreign currency. As I told you earlier, that the value of that Indian currency has been gained from 60 to 50. It means that rupee become more stronger than earlier, the domestic currency. It means the Indian rupees shows appreciation now. When it happens, when the demand for foreign exchange falls. So this is the currency appreciation. Now the next is impact of increase in supply of foreign currency. When there is the increase in supply, you see this in this diagram, students. When the supply increases from S to S1, earlier the rate of exchange was R. Now when the supply increases, exchange rate falls. It falls here from R to R1. It means when $1 was equal to rupees 60 earlier, now $1 is rupees 50. It means what? It means that Indian rupees become more stronger now. The Indian currency is appreciated again here. We have seen here when the demand for foreign exchange either fall or when the supply of foreign currency increases. So it will fall the value of Indian currency, known as what? The appreciation of currency or the domestic currency, that is what? Dollar. Next is the impact of decrease in supply. In the impact of decrease in supply, here suppose when the supply, there is a little bit mistake in making this diagram. What happens when the supply decreases from S to S1 to S, the exchange rate increases from OR1 to OR. And in that case, the US dollar, when it was earlier rupees 50, now it becomes up to rupees 60. So it is the depreciation of domestic currency. Depreciation means supply curve shifts from S to S1. This causes rise in the equilibrium exchange rate. Now $1 is available for rupees 70 instead of rupees 60 earlier. This situation of currency becomes depreciation, or depreciation of domestic currency means the value of Indian currency falls in comparison to the US dollar. So this is the impact on exchange rate. Briefly, we have studied that when there is the increasement in the demand of foreign exchange, when the demand of foreign exchange increases, exchange rate will increase, and when there is a fall in the demand for foreign exchange, the exchange rate will fall. Simultaneously, when the supply of the foreign exchange increases, exchange rate will fall, and when the supply of foreign currency will decrease, exchange rate will increase. Now the next is fixed exchange rate. This is the second part, second component of the exchange rate. The fixed exchange rate said to be the fixed when it is set or maintained by the government at a particular level. It means that the fixed exchange rate is fixed by the government. What? We have to keep in our mind that the government may set it at a level higher or lower than the equilibrium exchange rate. It is not necessarily that the fixed exchange rate will be always in the equilibrium state of. Why? because lower than the equilibrium exchange rate as determined by the market forces of supply and demand. तो ये बच्चों संतुलन विनिमय दर से ज्यादा भी हो सकता है और कम भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि इसका निर्धारण बाजार शक्तियों के द्वारा नहीं होता है, इट इज फिक्स्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट. नेक्स्ट कंपोनेंट इज मैनेज्ड फ्लोटिंग. इट इज आल्सो कॉल्ड डर्टी फ्लोटिंग. What is this managed floating? Students, even when exchange rate is determined by the forces of supply and demand, at the time the central bank, the name of central bank of our country is RBI, intervenes to manage the exchange rate so that it does not slip out of the desired limit. What does it mean here? It means that up to the desired level, RBI has the power to make the necessary correction in the exchange rate so that there should not be any more impact on the exchange rate, and it is called what? Managed floating. It may be defined as under: arranged floating is a system of floating exchange rate in which there is occasional intervention by the central bank to influence the float or manage the float. It is also called dirty floating. तो कभी कभी occasionally जब केंद्रीय बैंक को ये लगता है कि विनिमय दर में बहुत ज्यादा चेंज आ रही है, डॉलर का मूल्य रुपए की तुलना में बहुत ज्यादा है और रुपया जो है वो डॉलर की तुलना में उसमें बहुत ज्यादा उतार चढ़ाव आ रहा है, तो वो फ्लोटिंग के माध्यम से उसमें इंटरवीन करता है, उसको वो प्रभावित कर सकता है. ठीक है, इट इज नोन एज व्हाट? मैनेज्ड एक्सचेंज रेट. नाउ द नेक्स्ट concept is, students, why we demand foreign exchange. Suppose that you take an imaginary situation that why you need US dollar. As Indian citizen, why you need US dollar? Suppose if you want to go abroad for tourism purpose, यदि आप बाहर घूमना जाना चाहते हैं, then we need foreign exchange. Next is, if we want to import some goods from the abroad, जब हम विदेशों से कोई सामान मंगवाते हैं, in that case also we need what? Foreign exchange. क्योंकि उन देशों में रुपया नहीं चलता है, रुपया तो केवल हमारे देश में चलता है. Next is to make the investment abroad. If any enterprises from our country or the government or the individual or the firm wants to invest abroad, in that case also we need dollar. Then direct purchase from abroad. If we have to purchase some commodities from abroad, then we have to pay the money in their currency. Then we need what? Foreign exchange. Then the next is grants and donations. In other words, we can say these are the unilateral transfer, the transfer payments. For doing those things, we need what? Dollar. And for these reasons, we demand foreign exchange. We demand foreign currencies. Now the next is, students, what are the sources of the supply of foreign exchange? पूर्ति कैसे की जाती है विदेशी मुद्रा की? One is, जो हमने what we have studied in the supply of foreign exchange, just these are the reciprocation of those points. We demanded foreign exchange for import purpose, but we supply foreign exchange for export purpose. When the supply of the foreign exchange will increase, when we do the exports to the rest of the world. When the investment came from abroad, when the entrepreneurs come to India, they will come from with their currencies. So they will supply the foreign exchange to our country. If the peoples from abroad purchase the things from our country, direct purchase by the rest of the world. The next is loan from the rest of the world. They also be provided in the foreign exchange form. And next is the grants and donations from the rest of the world, which come to our countries, also supply the foreign exchange. So this is our today's topic, students. Just to recap, today we have learned the meaning of foreign exchange rate, then how the foreign exchange is determined. We have learned that this is determined through the flexible exchange rate or through the supply and demand forces or the market forces. And next is we have learned also fixed exchange rate, which is fixed by the government itself. The next we have studied the floating, managed floating. Managed floating, we have seen that the RB can intervene in the foreign exchange market to maintain its price. And lastly, we have seen also the components of the demand of foreign exchange and supply of the foreign exchange. With this, today's topic is over. I hope you all of you have understand this topic easily. Thanks and best of luck.